So you want to be a cricket farmer. Are you sure? So you've probably read all of the articles, seen all of the YouTube videos, heard about how amazing raising crickets is. Which brings you here, doing more research about how to start your cricket farm. I think it's awesome that you're on the hunt for new opportunities, whether it be for personal use or you want to do this commercially. So who the heck am I? And what gives me any sort of authority to speak on any of these topics? Have I ever even raised crickets? It's a good question, and all questions that you should ask. My name is Shelby Smith, and I am the owner of Jim and Eat Crickets, based here in Ames, Iowa, and I have been raising bugs and convincing people to eat them in varying degrees of success since January of 2018. By no means would I call myself an expert in the cricket farming field, but I think that I've made enough mistakes at this point that I have a few things to say about the topic. So I started off very small in the break room of my dad's shop back in January of 2018, and since then have expanded my own operation a couple different times, and then I have also taught 8 other contract growers around the state of Iowa how to raise crickets according to my methods, and they are direct suppliers of me. The goal of this series is to manage your expectations as you decide on whether or not cricket farming is actually for you. The very first question that you need to ask yourself, and this may seem like, duh, Shelby, of course, are you afraid of bugs? And I purposely did not say crickets because that's not the only bug you're going to deal with. You are essentially providing an unlimited food source for many different predators. You are fostering an environment that is conducive to rearing insects on a larger scale. You're gonna attract insects that you didn't necessarily plan on. Are you fine with them crawling on you? Are you fine with them accidentally coming home with you? Are you fine with occasionally having to squish them? All of these things are things that you're gonna have to tackle as a cricket farmer. If you're not comfortable with the creepy and the crawly, it's probably not for you. The second thing you need to be sure of before you start your cricket farm is your farm's purpose. Are you going to be raising them for personal use, whether it be for feeders, for your chickens, or for a lizard or a toad or any other exotic pet that might happen to eat crickets? Or are you raising them for your own human consumption? Or are you looking at doing this commercially? That's a really big question that you need to ask yourself, and you need to plan accordingly with steps moving forward. The conversations that you have around that vary wildly depending on what you say, whether you're going to be doing it for personal use and whether you're going to be doing it commercially. So that is the first big question that you really need to ask yourself is, why do I want to do this? Do I want to do this to build a business, or do I want to do this as a part of homesteading, providing my own food, growing my own food? If the answer is that you do want to do it commercially, then you need to make the decision, are you doing it for the live market or for feeder crickets, or are you looking at going into the human consumption market? Lots of different decisions need to be made based on that, and different methods can be applied for actually raising the crickets. Another key point that you may again say, duh, Shelby, like that's super obvious. It's in the name, cricket farming. It's farming. I hate to tell you this, if you think that it is going to be something drastically different from traditional livestock rearing, it's really not. It's an everyday job. Food, water, conditions need to be checked every day. Not to mention, you can do everything right, and everything can still go wrong on you because it's a living organism and they're complicated. They don't always tell you why that there are problems. The other thing to know is that it is a 365-day job. There are no days off. You can't neglect them and expect great results. It takes a very high standard of care to produce a high standard of product. While you may be able to get away with certain things that you can't necessarily with a cow or a pig or a chicken. For example, your crickets don't necessarily need to be fed right at 8 a.m. every morning, whereas that may not be the case with other livestock. Please do understand that it is farming. It is repetitive. It is labor intensive. It is work. Not necessarily hard work, but it is work. So please keep that in mind. Only about 2% of the entire U.S. population chooses farming as an occupation. Now I realize there's a lot of factors that go into that, but one of the reasons is farming is difficult. You know what's even more difficult? Non-subsidized farming, which here in the U.S., raising crickets is non-subsidized. So please remember, this is farming. Another thing that I see a lot in this industry: do not try to scale too big too fast. If you've never raised crickets before, if you've never raised anything before, you thinking that you are going to raise an entire warehouse full or even 1,000 square feet of crickets on your first go, setting yourself up for failure. I highly, highly recommend, and I cannot emphasize this enough, that you start as cheap and as small as you can. All of the videos that get put out, all of the how-tos, all of that stuff, makes this all look very, very easy. Go back to one of my previous points, it is farming. Less than 2% of the population farms. It's hard work. Please understand that the cheaper and smaller you start, the faster you realize whether this is a good fit for you or not. The smaller and cheaper you start, the smaller and cheaper your massive mistakes that you're going to make at the beginning are. I promise you, I've taught 8 people how to raise crickets. No matter how many times I tell them and emphasize certain points, it takes all of them at least 6 months to stop feeling panicked at every single major milestone for the crickets, whether it be a large hatch, whether it be harvest, all of those things. There's a learning curve associated with it. You don't think that you're just going to pick up a guitar and suddenly learn how to play it, right? There's always a learning curve. Same thing with this. So I would recommend starting small. If you don't like it, you can walk away. No problem. Start small, start cheap. Finally, possibly most importantly, and something that I need to repeat to myself on occasion, have patience. Please have patience. Have patience with yourself. Have patience with your crickets. It just doesn't all happen at once. So whatever your expectations are going into this, cut them in half. So if you think that you are going to start raising crickets in 1,000 square feet and you're going to produce, 2 million crickets every 45 days or 3 million crickets every 45 days, cut all of those expectations in half for at least the first year. And even that might be a little bit of an overshoot. There's just too many different factors and too many things for you to learn. Too much muscle memory for you to develop before you can really flourish as a cricket farmer. So please, please have patience and manage your expectations. If you manage your expectations, you won't be so disappointed. Farming has a really good way of disappointing you. So if you have that going in, it should be a breeze. And one bonus thing, you need to ask yourself if you can stomach failure. And I don't mean just failing like once, I mean failing over and over and over again. If you haven't heard it yet, you will. You aren't a real cricket farmer until you've killed at least 100,000 babies. Or no, you aren't a real, that's just me. I kill them by hundreds of thousands. You aren't a real cricket farmer until you've killed hundreds of thousands of crickets. And when I say killed hundreds of thousands of crickets, I mean not on purpose. Hopefully, obviously. I've killed millions at this stage. You will fail over and over and over. No matter the resources that you started out with, no matter how great you think you are going to be at this, you are going to fail over and over and over. Can you stomach that? Can you get up the next day and just keep on chugging? Can you be willing to just experiment? If not, probably not for you. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments, and like, subscribe, and share this video.